Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Still here for the Daily Market Pulses, Wednesday, August 27th. So stocks tapering off a little bit, getting a little quiet, mixed in lower volumes. So probably just some profit taking for the time being anyway. So just be cautious that there might be a little more aggressive selling. That could happen. So just be aware of that as they are tapering. You see the size of the real candles are still green, but going grinding up to the top near 17.2 on the Dow Jones here. But know that there was somewhat of a polarity. There's an 8 moving average right below. The 50 is still flat, just barely rising, and the 20 is starting to rise, but it's below the 50. So there's a little bit of confusion in terms of the current intermediate trends and so on. So that, for it to pull back into 17,000 would not be unusual. So let's see what they do. But certainly things are tapered off a little bit. You had a couple upper shadows of the previous two sessions, sideways for the most part today, even though green, sideways nonetheless. On the Dow, S&P kind of the same way, doji-like formation following a shooting star right at 2000. So again, support right below at the goal line, 1985. 8 moving average would coincide. The 20 and 50 are rising, but again, confused in terms of their stacking. But everything overall, the trend is still up. We're still looking for upper movement, but there could still be a little bit of a pullback. Same thing with the Nasdaq, maybe at the top of the channel. Still room above that to 4600, even 4650 for that matter, based on some measured moves. Window below at 4550 and 4500 will be your levels of support anticipated on the downside. 8 moving average will coincide fairly closely with 4550 as of tomorrow, the next day. And we flip over to the TSX. TSX, same thing. After breaking the polarity, went sideways and pushed a little bit higher and retesting the 8 moving average and the polarity as well, that pivot area, right at 15,538 to 15,550. Everything still looks good and strong to the upside as the stochastics is resetting itself at least just a little bit. Looking for more upside. Now the DAX to me is at resistance. It's at a polarity. It's at a declining 50. There's a flat 200. It's grinded up here pretty good and aggressively. So I'm looking at sideways to slightly lower on a retracement and profit taking first, with ultimately another shift and move toward 9,800 as its next target in sight. Support levels could still be 94 to 9,300. Sideways remains on US dollar, Canadian dollar. Bollinger Bands are tightening. You're at the 8 and the 20-day moving average as well. The 50 just starting to creep up. So I'd be looking for maybe a pullback first and then a push through 110 based on the formation. But let's see what they have planned for us, if they're going to break those bearish candles or not. Falling window yesterday confirmed the aggressiveness of the downside move. We're still looking at about a 131 price target below. Yeah, about 131 or so as a target below. Even though it's oversold, we're looking for a flush, perhaps a pushback. That window from the previous session, essentially on Monday, is going to be the first level of resistance or target on the way up. Prices were essentially sideways today. Candles not showing up here on the screen. Treasuries slightly green again. There it is. It dropped on the open and then pushed through. So just above 141 now, looking like it's going to want to push into 142 or higher. That's what it looks like, but it needs to clear this level ultimately with better confirmation. And maybe it does so as the markets taper off with a little bit of profit taking. Japanese yen holding steady here as well. Support across 96 as we anticipated. It's held there for 4 straight consecutive lows. Looking for a push into 96.60, and then of course as high as maybe 97.50 ultimately as well. And then we're going to shift over to gold and silver. Gold is holding reasonably well here. That was yesterday's candle there. There's today. So essentially an inside day. Not much going on there. Just very, very quiet. But no real movement upside or downside. So below 1275 is short, above 1290 is long, but that's not been established as of yet. Okay, and then silver, there was the thrust yesterday higher, and there's today very quiet. So it looks like it might be trying to just essentially take a breather before it starts to really start to move. Bollinger Bands are starting to tighten, so there's going to be a volatile move. The size of the real buys are telling you how quiet things really are, which means quiet before the storm. Okay, then crude. Crude is stabilizing around 93. Not much going on here at all. Just kind of a slightly up, slightly down, kind of a very neutral day today with a spinning top. Nothing definitive. There's still room to 91, 91.50. Otherwise, you need to break above. Like I'd probably call it 94 and a quarter. Above 94 and a quarter, you're going into back to 97, 98. Otherwise, below 93, I think you're going to 91. So all that's sort of up in the air at the moment. A little bit of a crapshoot, although I'd say a slight bias to the long side. But I know it will go long. It's a question: do they flush it first? Small caps, there's that red candle, just a little bit of a tapering after a pretty decent move. The 50 is still flat. We're just now getting a crossover of the 8 through the 50, which means that just strengthens now the short-term trend even more so. 116 support, looking for a break above 117, and then you got room then to 120 to 121. With the markets, kind of on the mixed side, the VIX was barely showing any signs of fear. Now 1182, 1150 support with room to 13 to 1350, and then room all the way down to the downside to 1050. So right now I'm looking at 1250 first, and then maybe 1350 thereafter, but not much there as of yet currently.